Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. I just want to thank all my old subscribers and welcome my new subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. Today I'm in the kitchen making a meal from my pantry staples. So let's get started. So I have my regular 9.5 pie pan here, and I've always used this one to make this dish, but I was in Target and I found this nice deep one that I've been looking for some time, and I couldn't resist picking it up. So I'm going to use it today to make my chicken pot pie. And this can be made a beef pot pie, you can make it into a turkey pot pie, whatever you want. But we're going to make chicken. So I'm going to make the crust from scratch using my sourdough starter. And if you can see, it has the hooch on top. I let it sit on my counter this time of year. So I'm just going to mix that in and then get started. So I'll put the recipe below for a single crust. What I'm doing is a double crust. So I'm using more than the ingredients that I put down below. So in goes my flour into a mixing bowl. And then I'm going to add my sugar and my salt. And then I'm just going to whisk those in together. Once I have all my dry ingredients mixed in together, I'm going to add my cold butter, and I did cut it up into small chunks, and as I said, this is a double batch, so I know that looks like a lot of butter, but it's a double crust. And I'm just going to start cutting in my butter into the dry flour mix using my pastry cutter, and that makes it a lot quicker. You can also do this with a food processor if you have one, and that goes a lot faster as well. Or if you don't have that, a fork will do. So now that I've got my butter cut in, and you can see it's cut into sort of like breadcrumb size, it's time to add my wet ingredients. And I'm just going to make a well in the center and put my wet ingredients in, and that's going to be my sourdough starter and my white vinegar. So once you've done that, you want to get your hands in there and bring your dough together, and then you're going to turn it out onto a floured surface and knead it until it just starts to come together. You don't want to knead it too much because then you'll have a tough crust, and you don't want to melt those butters in there as well. So now that you've got it pretty much together, it's still a little crumbly, but don't worry about it at this point. You're going to cut it in half. Well, actually, I'm going to cut mine a little like 1/3 to 2/3 because my bottom I want a little bit bigger because of what pan I'm using. And then we're going to put it in the fridge for at least an hour. So you want to wrap your portions in some cellophane and just put it in your fridge or freezer, depending on how much time you have. 1 hour in the fridge works. My crust is in the fridge chilling. I'm going to get my filling done so that I can cool and I can put it in when it's ready. So I'm sneaking in some veggies. This is some squash from last year's garden. I have some potatoes here. I'm doing chicken, but you can do beef or whatever meat you want. I'm doing chicken, like a chicken pot pie. Have some celery, some mixed canned veg, and then I'm putting in some condensed soup. Now I grabbed cream of mushroom, but you can do chicken. I usually grab that, but that was in front, so that's what I pulled out. And whatever seasonings you like. I have adobo, garlic, onion, my no salt one, and then I will put a little bit of salt in there because of the potatoes and all that. I just want to flavor it a little bit with some salt. So I'm going to start that while my crust is chilling in the fridge. What time it is? Yep, that would be roux time. So I'm starting my chicken pot pie filling with a roux, and that's basically even parts of butter and flour. And I'm going to get that cooking for a couple of minutes before I add in my next ingredients. Roux's been cooking for a few minutes. It smells, I akin it to sugar cookies. That's what it smells like to me. So I know when I smell sugar cookies, then it's done. And I want to add in my liquids. I'm going to start with my squash. I'm using the water over there, and I'm going to pour my water in. And that's going to help me create that thickening. See how thick that got really quickly? Yeah. Add the rest. You want to add little by little, and you want it to be cold because that's going to help the lumps. But I mean, using a whisk is going to also help you keep down the lumps as well. And I do have it down low now. And then I'm going to pour my squash in there because I want to mash this up. And this is spaghetti squash from last year's garden. And I'm just going to take my whisk and mash that in there. And that's going to help thicken it up as well because we're going to have a lot of liquid. The only liquid I'm not going to use off my veggies and meats is the potato veg because that has a lot of starch in it. So I'm going to mix this all up, get that smoothed out, and then get my next ingredients in. The rest of my liquids, I have my mixed veg. I'm going to use 1 can of that, and I'll probably reserve the other can for later cooking. So I have that in, and I'm just making sure my roux is as thick as I want it to be, because when I start putting in the other ingredients, it's going to thin out. So I'm just wanting to make sure it's thick now. Because I have celery, my celery liquid I want to add in there as well. I'm just adding my liquids for now. And then my meat, my chicken is going to have a little bit of liquid as well. So I just want to make sure this is thick enough to hold that. I might have to add a little bit more flour to it before I go on. And remember, I am using my condensed cream of mushroom soup, so that will thicken it up a little bit as well. So I added in my cream of mushroom soup, and I'm just going to stir that in. And I just want to make sure it's as thick as I want it before I start adding in my solid ingredients. And that's pretty thick. So I'm just going to add in the rest of my ingredients in here, my spices, and let it cool. That is as quick as that. It's so easy to do when you already have everything canned up and you don't have to worry about cooking chicken and cutting out veggies and all that crazy stuff. So yeah, got my spices in here, some garlic, and a little bit for the stove as well, some onion powder. I use adobo. This is my home blend that I actually mix myself. And I like these no salt ones. So this is a garlic herb one that I have open. And they come, I think, in 3 or 4 different flavors. Mixes, whatever you want to call it, flavors, mixes. Get that in there. I'm going to taste this and make sure, because I haven't added any salt and I don't really want to because we're kind of salt sensitive. So I'm just going to taste it a little bit. Oh yeah, that doesn't need any salt. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, that tastes good. I could eat this as a soup, right? Like this. This tastes delicious. Alright, if I do say so myself. So I'm going to add in my other things and then literally turn it off because I don't have to cook anything else because everything's already cooked. Here goes my potatoes, my celery, my mixed veg. Get everything in here, and I'm going to turn this off and cover it, and it will warm up and cool all at the same time for when my pie crust is ready to be rolled out and put in the pan. My chicken pot pie filling done. It took all of 15 minutes, so I'm gonna let it sit here on my stovetop, and I'm just gonna cover it, and it will be ready to go into the pie filling in about 45 minutes because that'll be an hour for the crust in the fridge, and then I'll finish the rest. So my pie crust has chilled in the fridge for an hour, and I am now ready to roll it out and get my chicken pot pie assembled and into the oven. So once I have my bottom crust rolled out, I am going to layer it into my buttered dish. Whatever dish you're using, I put some butter in it, and I'm just going to gently finesse my pie crust into the pan. So now that I've got my bottom pie crust into the pan, I'm going to add my chicken pot pie filling, and I'm just gonna ladle it in, and I had just the right amount to fill this deep dish. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to roll out my top pie crust to put it onto the pie and get it sealed up. And I'm going to use just some regular water. You can use milk, you can use egg, whatever you want to do to seal the two pie crusts together. And you can crimp it with your fingers or use a fork, however you want to do it, to get the two pie crusts to stay together. So now that my pie is ready to go in the oven, I'm just going to cut some relief holes in the top, and there's some slits just to let out the steam. I did 4, but you can do as many as you want. And I'm going to get it into a 425-degree oven for 30 to 35 minutes or until it is golden brown, and it really does depend on your oven. So mine took right around 30 minutes, and you can see it's nice and golden brown. And I'm going to let it sit here and cool for about 15 to 20 minutes before I cut into it. And I did have enough left over for some vegan, no meat in these, so those are for me. And this is what they look like. I will say this is probably one of the best ones I have done yet. Nice and brown on the bottom. The crust was nice and flaky. It had a bit of sweetness to it, but not a whole lot, just the way I like it. And the filling was delicious. Like I said previously, I could eat that just like that in a soup. So all in all, I will say this is definitely a win, and you should definitely try this. You can serve it with some veg on the side if you wish. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. Thank you very much and have a great day.